Hey, Angie Fenimore here, and this is Fat Chat with my writing coach. Phat, Fat Chat with my writing coach. So, hello. I want to talk a little bit about a term that I've coined called extra consciousness. But before I do that, we need to talk about um, why we write, like the why behind. I mean, there's so much out there about connecting to your why, but we have, with Calliope, we have a little bit different take, okay? So, something that we've identified is that, and I should say Michael, who's a marketing genius, by the way, he works with his private clients around discovering what their why is, because when you know your why, everything else kind of clicks into place, all right? So, here are basically the five. Michael calls this the purpose pentagon. Okay. Um, some people write for personal. So here's what we know about writing. Um, Therapists have identified that writing is one of the most effective forms of therapy. Mhm. So some people write for personal. And when I wrote Beyond the Darkness, I started writing for personal. I was healing. And I had no intention for anybody to ever see that, right? It was just for myself to get it out. It's kind of like, disease, like an abscess. When I was 17 years old, I had my gallbladder removed, and a 17-year-old kid, 96 pounds, that's the last thing that they were looking for. I mean, at first the doctor was certain I had canned food poisoning, but then I said, I haven't eaten anything out of a can. I was on a health food kick at the time. I haven't eaten anything out of a can in a year. It can't be that. But I'm in the hospital, doubled over in pain, and they can't sort out what's wrong with me. They finally figure it out. It's my gallbladder, and I have emergency surgery. And they said I had enough gallstones to build a house. No joke. So then I'm released from the hospital after the surgery, and I'm not getting better. And about 4 or 5 days later, I had a fever of like 106 or something. It was very, very, very high. Rush to the emergency room. They admit me, start pumping me with antibiotics and, reducing the fever and all of that, but I'm not getting better. And I was in the hospital for months. And I got all the way down to, I want to say, if I remember this correctly, I was like 68 pounds. I couldn't walk anymore. And like I could not get out of bed. I was like, I didn't even look the same. I was so withered and just ill. All right. And finally, um, and this is back in the day, by the way, just before laparoscopic surgery. So I have a scar that runs like along my rib cage all the way, from here to here. It's like, 7 inches long. And finally, one morning I wake up, and that scar, that incision had like ballooned up. It looked like there was a little puppy in there. And so the nurse sees it and she goes running out and, like, you know, toot sweet, there's my doctor in his three-piece suit. And they actually, sliced open that incision, the top part of it, right there in the room, in the hospital room. And they said, that's what we've been waiting for. It's an abscess, but, it's like through my whole body, making me so sick. But once it bloomed up, then they could drain it. And so, yeah, I had to get that scar revised because it had to heal open, because the body heals from the inside out, right? So they had to let that drain, and that incision started to heal, but from the inside. So that's the way all healing works, is from the inside out. So you might be writing for personal, which is to heal, or just to collect your own, musings. Or you might be writing for praise. And I know that sounds like me. No. So if you're really interested in winning awards, if you're really interested in the quality of your work, you're really interested in writing something that, as a potential Pulitzer Prize, then you might be writing for praise, right? To have something that's praiseworthy, okay? Or you could be writing for profit, like you want to make money. So Michael uses this example of films, top grossing films, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, so I can't tell you what they are. But something like the Avengers, they're writing for profit. They aren't writing to win an Oscar. That wasn't the point. Okay, that's not the point. So you might be writing for profit, right? Or you might be writing for posterity. You want to get all that information down. It was like my sister um, had a project in high school. Our father was 40 when he had me, and then she's my younger sister. So my father fought in World War II, and he was with the company that liberated, uh, gosh, I want to say it was Auschwitz. It might have been Dachau, though. But anyway, she had a project at school where she had to interview somebody, and she interviewed our father. And those tapes became precious to us. That information, now that we're grown, is precious to us. And I've done a lot of family history. I traced one of my lines all the way back to King Henry VIII and concubine. And, we have a lot of Irish in us. Like, we look Irish, we act Irish. And yet, you know, that line was all English. Well, what I discovered was all of our English men were marrying Irish women for many generations. So no wonder, right? But I stumbled upon a book one time that was written probably in the 60s. One of my distant cousins compiled the family history in that book, and there's all these really interesting little anecdotes that are just very cool that relate to, like, I can see these elements in my own children, right? You can tell the Fenimore. And so you might be writing for posterity to capture your life, your messages, your inspiration, your trials, what it was like for you growing up, or in adulthood. You might be writing to pass that down, right? And you might be writing to provide, to make a difference for others, okay? And almost everybody, it's like, that's why I wrote Beyond the Darkness, was to make a difference for others. I initially wrote it for myself, right? And I healed. And then I wrote it to provide, but everything else came along: profit, praise, posterity. I don't have a kid that hasn't written a book report on it. My grandson texted me the other day, "Did you write this book? Is this you?" He found a video of me on YouTube. Well, I don't even know, like millions of views. I didn't post it, but anyway, there you go. So you might be writing for multiple reasons, but there's always a primary. There's always one primary, what's most important to you. So what always comes up, though, is to make a difference. Everybody has an experience, a book that made a lot of difference for you. So for me, it was To Kill a Mockingbird. I'm really, really dyslexic, and I couldn't get through the reading list. I just couldn't comprehend it. I failed world history 3 years in a row because anything having to do with numbers, all of a sudden, I don't see anything. It's like Westworld. Doesn't look like anything to me. It's the way dyslexia works. It's not like that you're mixing stuff up. It's not like swapping. I do swap words and stuff, and I have to go slowly and make sure that I read it right. But anyway, point being, To Kill a Mockingbird was so enthralling for me that I couldn't put it down. And it changed me. It altered me. And it's fiction, right? Changed who I am as a human being, that book. And so we all have this desire. Deep down, all human beings have a desire to make a difference for others. We do, at the core of us all. Underneath all of that survival machinery that we all build up, we have that desire to make a difference. So that's always in there. And if you find me, it's in there. Always, always. So I know it's there because you're watching this. So, difference between self-consciousness and extra consciousness. So self-consciousness, the way that, like, my distinction for self-consciousness is being conscious of self, okay? Having focus on self, um, concerned what others might think, feeling like you're going to mess it up, getting it right. Like all those things also fall inside of being self conscious, right? So an extra conscious person has their focus outward. It doesn't mean that we don't deal with, you know, being terrified. You should see what I have to do to work up to do one of these Facebook Lives. There's something about having a microphone in my face or a camera in my face. All of a sudden, I'm just nervous as all get out, and it messes with my entire, like every day, my entire internal intestinal system is a wreck until I do it, my Facebook Live, right? Because I'm coming from extra consciousness. I want to make a difference, and that's bigger than my fears. Like I would never ever be a writing coach if I wasn't committed to making the biggest possible difference that I can make in the world. As long as I breathe in and out, I want to make a difference while I'm here because that gives me an experience of a quality life. And here's what I know. One book, one film, one song can reach millions. And when you alter the way people see and think, then the world changes. That's how the world changes. Like, truthfully, that's why I coach. That's why I'm a writing coach, is because I want to empower as many writers as possible. And I know if you find me, you have, like it's always, back and forth and changing and shifting, but you have an element of extra consciousness in you. You want to make a difference. Now, when I say self consciousness versus extra consciousness, I'm not talking about good or bad. I'm not saying one is good and one is bad. I'm not talking about right and wrong. Nothing like that, okay? I'm not talking about, humanitarian work. What I'm talking about is where your focus lies. And in order to have your focus outside of yourself, you must get over the stuff that has you be self-conscious. Because all human beings, we are all dealing with belonging and surviving the tribe. We want to belong to this tribe of ours. Human beings, we're tribal, okay? But we must survive it because it can be a really intimidating, scary world when a human being's greatest fear is shame, right? Okay. So you're overcoming stuff, you're stepping over it. You've created something bigger than yourself in order to be extra conscious. And, it's back and forth. Sometimes I'm self conscious, sometimes I'm extra conscious, but I make effort to be extra conscious. And I use tools that allow me to do that. So in the course that I just completed, the Submission Possible series, and I'll put the link in there in case anybody is, interested in doing this course. It's like, it's so funny because it's me in front of a video camera in my studio in my basement, like nobody there. Like Michael can't even be in there. It's like, okay, goodbye, honey, so I can do this, right? I really, no kidding, have to do breathing exercises before I hit record. And then sometimes I have to just stop and breathe in between. And I have to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I use Mel Robbins 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 because if you act before your brain has the opportunity to get in there and start telling you all the reasons why, this is a premium opportunity to screw up and to, experience failure, rejection, shame. And it doesn't make any sense, right? Because this all got put in place when you were little. Anyway, we go into great detail about this in the course. But point is that I'm far more committed to making a difference than I am to honoring my fears. Right? So that's what it is. It's about what are you going to honor? Are you going to make a difference with your writing? Which means, it's a lot of work, and there's reviews when you're at the end. That's usually what stops you, by the way, is that your brain knows this, even though you're not like putting it together consciously. Someday it's going to be out and people are going to leave reviews. So anyway, so extra consciousness. And the way to be extra conscious is to practice. Just practice it. The next time you are afraid to do something, that would make a difference for somebody else, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, do it. Just act anyway, in spite of, in the face of, really. That's how I like to say it, is in the face of, because it's not really instead of, because you still have to be courageous, right? So there you go. Okay, that's what I got for you today. All right, so here's my challenge. Take it or leave it. Be extra conscious AF. Ciao for now.